Rich, I wanted to ask you, Planet Aqua Group was going to manage Sci-Port. They're now not managing Sci-Port. What is the relationship with Sci-Port and the Planet Aqua Group at this time?
Well, currently we have a management agreement in place, but Sci-Port suspended it. We were retaining the services of Planet Aqua Group to oversee construction and a lot of employees. After we shut down and we began to make plans for that construction and hiring of employees, we found more and more, essentially landmines, call it, financially, that the board didn't know about, that really mitigated the positive effects of going forward with any kind of fundraising.
Can you tell us more about those landmines?
What is landmines?
So let me give you one simple example. You have a copy machine at your office. We found that we were going to cancel the copy machines. We didn't need that many. We only had 5 people, and there was no reason to have that many copy machines. Well, Sci-Port, through its prior, someone that wasn't even an officer but an employee of Sci-Port, signed a 5-year copier agreement with Konica Minolta that pretty much we have to pay $50,000 to $60,000 to cancel.
Whoa!
And so that's just an example of something.
It sounds to me like, going back to the first segment, the vast majority of the financial problems you described are just oversight, like people just not. The wrong people in the wrong positions, or people who shouldn't be making decisions. And
it's one of those things that you find in a file. So typically, the bylaws say this, that entering into an agreement like that, the board has to approve. And there's nothing in the minutes. I was on the board then. I recall nothing along those lines, but it was stuck in a paper file, and we found it later.
There's been reports that you're going to ask the parish for a $2 million loan.
Absolutely not. In fact,
completely false?
Completely false. What happened was there was a meeting with one of our board members and Ted Magner from the Chamber of Commerce and one of our employees. It was a meeting I was invited to because Alan Brown, our educational outreach director, was there. We didn't get our typical about $60,000 grant from them for kids from Caddo Parish to come in. And so when I saw that meeting, it's like, okay, I got other things I got to work on for Sci-Port. Alan can go and give his talk. That'll be good. During the discussions, first of all, that came to my surprise when Nick Wooten reached out to me and sent me an email the other day.
That's the Times reporter.
The Times reporter.
Okay.
And who, to their credit, quickly supplemented that with my side of the story. And then I talked to Tim and Linda, and I had a meeting with Tim that day, actually, on an unrelated matter. And he said, Rich, we were there to talk about the grant and just all kinds of ideas around the table. There was no formal ask or anything along those lines. This is being blown way out of proportion. And if you watch I did a presentation to the City Council and the Caddo Parish Commission, and there's a line of questioning from Commissioner Jackson where he's like, "You're not here to ask for money." And if you look at the video, I'm like, "What do you?" I made it very clear. I'm just here to give everyone an update.
Right.
Same as the City Council the week before, and I'm very confused by the line of questioning. And I asked people on the board, and they were confused too, and no one really got why he was asking me these questions. And it turns out that he was under the impression that we were dead hard serious and asking for $2 million. $2 million doesn't correlate to anything in our financials,
right?
Which made it even more confusing.
What is the Sci-Port debt?
The Sci-Port debt we're not going to talk about right now, and I'm going to tell you why. One, we are going through and verifying. Remember, we don't have the infrastructure employee. Our employees are running POP and other stuff, including cleaning bathrooms. The board is managing day to day. We have our audit that came out March 2017. We have not paid for because we don't have the money to. It's $15,000, and they can't do our next audit unless we pay them for the old one, and then we got to pay for the new audit. And so I'm not going to release financial statements. I can give some general stuff.
If I gave you a $2 million check, does that get you out of debt?
Absolutely, and then some.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't want a $2,000 debt because as chairman, I'd have to sign that promissory note. And I don't know if we could pay that back because we don't have a permanent, reliable source of revenue. So I'd be signing that in bad faith.
What is
membership revenues are down?
Membership revenues, we're not selling new memberships. And so we're not going to do that until we have the plan to reopen the rest. We're not going to ask for any money from anyone other than attendance. And when you go into Sci-Port now, there's a button kind of like you at a CVS. You can give $1 at St. Jude's. You can give it to the Sci-Port Foundation, which is an endowment that we have.
Okay.
What kind of restructuring plan? I'm sure that when you and the board members get together, you had said in the Times article, working on the restructuring plan. Any hints?
Well, one, we're verifying debts. Let me give you an example. One, on our payables.
Pardon me, I don't know anything about being on a board. But when you say verifying debts,
Correct.
That what I say is you don't know what your debt is.
Well, what I'm saying is because of what's happened in the past, all of our financial statements are guilty until proven innocent. We're not giving them due process. So we're pulling up the invoices, checking, making sure everything's correct. For example, one thing was overstated by $117,000 for IMAX.
What does overstate mean? I'm sorry.
That means we owe.
I mean, I know what it means,
yeah.
but isn't that just a fancy word for lie?
Not at all. Not at all. There's in our old financial statements, you look at it. We owe IMAX. I'll give you one example. We owe IMAX $30,000 for royalties, and we're cooperating. They're being very friendly because they're trying to sell us some more IMAX movies. At one point, it was on our financial statement is 140-something thousand, which is incorrect. And so what we do is we call the creditor. We ask them to send us in writing the amounts owed. We check that against our financial statements. And these are board members doing this. We don't have the employees do this. We just call them essentially when I have time. If I have someone that is not owed a lot of money, I'll get me or another director. We'll say, look, we'll give you, let's say, $250. We'll cut you a check, personal check today. And we're handling it that way. Now, we can't pick and choose creditors. That's what people have to understand. Mm-hmm. So if I got $100 in, I couldn't say, okay, I'm going to take care of this one today. They all have to be treated equally, with the exception of things that are related to restricted funds.